Hello and welcome. You're listening to Start Again with Shaunna Lee, sponsored by Soulway Massage. This is the place where you'll be reminded that it's never too late and you're never too old to do the damn thing. So stick around if you're ready to vibe higher and be inspired to chase your dreams. Together, we will uncover your soul's truest desires. Now, if you're ready, let's get started. Hello, everyone. I am back. I'm back with a Simply Shaunna episode for you today. We are back to our regularly scheduled program. So moving forward, we have got our regular cadence of Simply Shaunna episodes, just me on Tuesdays, and a lovely interview introducing you to an amazing new guest on Thursdays. And I have deemed October Love Month. So I know we are used to seeing breast cancer awareness. All the pink comes out in October, which, listen, that's my favorite color. So I'm a huge fan of seeing all the pink in all the stores. However, I have deemed it Love Month. Part of the reason I have done that is the way my guest interviews have fallen into place. The next few guests that we're talking to are a lot of those conversations are centered around love. And so I thought, well, let's make that the theme for the whole damn month. And another important announcement is we now have sponsors. How exciting is this? I have signed my first sponsor, as you have heard already at the beginning of this episode. Soulway Massage, one of my very dear friends, has decided to sponsor the month of October. So I am going to be sharing all about her and her business, and definitely want you to check her out if you are local, because listen, Jennifer is magic. And if you don't know her, you need to know her. Anyhow, when you pop over to chat with Jen and schedule your body session, please be sure to use the code LOVE, because listen, October is Love Month. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today specifically is when we are attempting to attract love into our life, if you are one of these trying to attract your perfect match, one of the really great ways to do that is to learn how to truly love yourself. Now, we hear a lot about this, and I feel like a lot of the conversations are superficial. And when we think of self-care, we think of, an expensive spa day. And what I'm going to tell you is you have plenty of time every day for a little self-care, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune. So the easiest ways for us to have this conversation is to first talk about what it is not. Self-care is not a requirement to spend a lot of money or to spend a full day. Now, listen, I can get behind an expensive spa day. That sounds glorious. But the reality is, especially for a lot of us working moms, is we don't have the time to do that. But what I will challenge you with is that you do have time to take care of yourself every day. And the reason that we give two shits about self-care is a couple different things. First of all, we've heard it said, you cannot fill from an empty cup, which obviously is true. But really what that is meaning is you cannot truly show up for the people in your life the way that you want to and in your best, the best version of you, if you haven't first taken care of yourself. So this is the goal for me when we're talking about self-care, is to fill your cup so that you can then show up for the people in your life that you care about the way you want to. And the other thing to consider is when you are trying to attract a partner, you want to consider, how are you feeling loved the most? And so when you can learn to love yourself, it creates a better partner for this person you are trying to attract. So it's got multiple different facets to it, but self-care essentially is you learning how to love yourself in a way that fills your cup so that you can be the best version of yourself. So it's not selfish. If anything, it is selfless to consider making what you need a priority, because it allows you to then serve your purpose that much better. So in order to give what you want to give to the world, you should first take care of yourself. So I've got 2 tips for you today. And the first one The easiest one for any new client of mine that we are talking about, okay, I don't even know what self-care is. I don't have time. I don't have enough money to splurge on myself. I come back to love languages every time. That's a starting point. So there are 5 love languages. If you're not familiar, we'll go through them pretty quickly here. But if you know what your love language is, that's how you can direct your self-care in the most efficient manner. First of all, the 5 love languages are acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, and physical touch. Typically, we will have 1 to 2 of these that are going to just blow the others out of the water. They just really speak to us. That's how we feel the most loved. And so acts of service is, this is an interesting one. I have a good story for you. So my son, it took me a little while to realize that one of his top love languages is acts of service. And what this looks like in a child is a child who doesn't want to do things for himself necessarily. So this poor kid got pegged as the lazy kid. I remember saying he would likely let me still wipe his bottom if I would be willing. And really what it highlighted for me is that is how he feels most cared for, is when people do things for him. So if I, um, schlep his backpack to his room for him or fill his water bottle, these tiny little things really are just showing him that I love and care for him. And oftentimes people will express their love in that same way. So he often will do kind things for other people, but not just anybody. And so, for him, holding a door open for someone is really an act of love. And so acts of service is the first one I wanted to talk to you about. So doing kind things, doing errands or favors for someone else as a way to show appreciation, show how much you care, how much you love them, is one. And then receiving gifts. This is actually one of my top love languages, as is the next one, quality time. So those are my top 2 love languages. I adore receiving presents. I also really, really love to give presents. If you are a close friend of mine, then you likely have noticed that I put a lot of effort into what the gift looks like, even once it's wrapped. So I really, I go all out at Christmas, and the wrapping paper and the ribbons, all of that matters. I want the gift to look pretty, but really what is behind that is the effort I put into wrapping a gift and choosing a gift and giving of a gift really is how I am expressing my love for other people. So receiving gifts can be one. And then quality time. This one's pretty self-explanatory, right? But for me, it took me a long time to realize that this was actually a love language for me. I love conversations, as you might have gathered. And I simply adore having lunch with my friends, and or a happy hour or a dinner. But typically, when I was in corporate America, what I realized was I was scheduling lunches most days. Obviously, I needed to eat food, but it was more about taking time out of my day to devote to a conversation with a friend. That quality time where it's one-on-one or a select few really is how I express my care and appreciation for my friends. I simply adore spending time with the people I love. And then the next one is words of affirmation. Now, listen, this is very interesting to me that I am not very good at words of affirmation. It is it is a skill that I have had to intentionally learn. And being a parent was probably the first way that I recognized that this wasn't a natural ability that I had. And so really being able to highlight the positives or to praise the effort, to really teach my children how to value themselves and not require my praise, it has been a real mind shift for me. But a lot of people, words of affirmation is how they feel appreciated and loved the most. And so when you are working with one of these people, you want to make sure that you are speaking to their character and their effort and just recognizing what they do well. And so words of affirmation is the fourth love language. And the last one is physical touch. Uh, Most men, actually, physical touch is one of their top love languages. And of course, most people jump right to, oh my God, we're talking about sex, but this is not actually what we're talking about. Physical intimacy can be an aspect of physical touch, but what I'm referring to is really physically just touching. So for someone whose love language is physical touch, touching their arm, holding their hand, resting your hand on their back as you're talking to them is really how you are connecting to that person. And for someone whose love language is physical touch, that's a really important thing to keep in mind when you are engaging with them. The best way to attract love is to love yourself. For many of us, we are only just beginning to learn what it truly means to care for ourselves. And that can begin with your body. A happy body leads to a happy mind and a happy spirit. This is what self-care is built upon. Now, if you are local, you must visit Soulway Massage in Round Rock, Texas. Jen will help you to shift, release, and transform your emotional and physical blocks. Jen's ability to read a body and respond is nothing short of magical. She uses a custom approach for every client that includes various healing massage modalities like Thai yoga massage and lymphatic drainage therapy. Book your first body session at Soulway Massage with code LOVE. The links are in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. So for you, when it comes to self-care, when you know which one of these is your love language, that's how you can direct your moments of self-care on a daily basis. Now, let's say you are like me and gifts is your top love language. This does not mean that we are going to go and buy ourselves, an expensive bag or buy shoes or, buy ourselves gifts on a daily basis. But what this does mean and what it can look like is stopping on your way to work to get a cup of coffee from Starbucks instead of making one at home, simply because you're doing a tiny little thing to make yourself feel good. This could be different every single day. So it's not like you're just stopping to spend money out of your ordinary budget on a daily basis. But if gifts is your love language, then making it a priority to give yourself permission to buy the thing you've been wanting can be enough. And so it's maybe not a daily gift that you're giving yourself, but I remember, so expensive bags is not my thing. I am not carrying a Louis. I am not looking at Chanel bags. Like this just hasn't ever really been my thing. I can appreciate them. They look great, but I will be the one to carry a bag for years, simply years. And it was one of these times when I realized, oh, wait a second, why am I carrying this ratty old bag? And I gave myself permission to buy a $40 bag on Amazon, and I just adore it. And it was one act of self-care that I could do that lasted. It was ongoing. So for the next few weeks, as I'm carrying this new bag, I felt like I had taken care of myself. I was treating myself. That's how you can kind of keep in mind what your love language is and how that would look for you with self-care. So if quality time, for example, is yours, how can you spend quality time with yourself? Maybe that is you spend 20 minutes taking a bath instead of your usual 10-minute shower. So you spend an extra 10 minutes devoted to yourself. And what I will kind of highlight here is I'm a huge fan of the leisurely baths. And that's one of the ways that I have recognized that I can take care of myself or fill my cup is simply to take a long bath. Now, I cannot do this on the daily, but when I do set aside 30 minutes to an hour to soak in a bath and it's luxurious and it feels amazing because I'm spending time with myself. One of the things I would caution you against is what I often do, which is feel like I need to be doing something else while I'm simply soaking in the bath. So often I will listen to a podcast or, an audiobook, and I would just say, maybe you just soak in the bath and relax and spend time with yourself, contemplating, your next goal. Or I love to do a meditation while I'm in the bath when I'm actually allowing myself that true quality time with me. And then let me just highlight a few others. So if words of affirmation is important to you, spending time each day in your journal, affirming what you've done well, expressing gratitude for the shit you've got done, like being able to affirm yourself verbally. You can do that through journaling. And that's a really good way to just kind of build yourself up uh, and give yourself what you need in the way that it matters most to you. So that is one of my favorite ways to kind of get people started on the self-care path, is to pay attention to what your love languages are. Because here's the question I will ask you. How can you learn to love somebody else if you don't even know how to love yourself? It's a good one. The more that we practice and we try one thing on for size and see how it fits, we can figure out what our thing is. And then you can create daily habits that are building you up. And this is why I always talk about a morning routine being so important, is because it's giving you the fresh start each day with your cup as full as possible. And when we do this, it doesn't have to take an hour every morning. You could spend an extra 10 minutes just spending time with yourself, or, affirming what you've done well. Acts of service. Let me just go back to that one. So if acts of service is yours, what can you do that is treating yourself? So maybe you stop and wash your car on the way to work so that you are doing something nice for yourself to feel as if you have been treated well. Another one that I like to think about when acts of service is yours, and you're raising small children on your own in a single mom household, that can be a little challenging because you have to then teach your children how to do that thing. So when I talked about delegating in my book, that was a really good way to use acts of service as self-care. So really just teaching your kids to do something nice for you as a way of delegating a responsibility to them, but also to lighten your load. That is a great way that you can be prioritizing yourself and what's important and making sure that you're being taken care of as well. It also teaches your children how to be conscientious human beings. So it's a win-win for sure. So my second tip for you, okay, so love languages was the first one. The second one is this idea of creating a new habit every day. It's a challenge because creating new habits, I think it takes 21 days to create a new habit. So you have to do an activity every day and kind of create that new habit. And so meditation is one of those that I am a huge fan of because, listen, I talk to you guys all the time about meditation being important, but there is plenty of scientific evidence that shows the physical improvements to our bodies when we make meditation a standard practice for our lives. So blood pressure goes down. Lots of stress hormones are reduced. There are physical benefits to our body. People sleep better when they're meditating on a regular basis. Like there's so many physical attributes that are positive to your well-being when you meditate. So the challenge with someone being new to meditating is they think it takes a lot of time or they don't know how to do it. And what I'm going to challenge you with is I'm going to give you a challenge. It is a free 7-day challenge. When you go to my website, SimplyShaunna.com, under free stuff, you will find my free meditation challenge. So when you sign up, you will get an email every day, and it literally walks you through the baby steps 1, 2, 3 to learning how to meditate. Because here is the trick. It's different for everybody. So what I do in this challenge is really break it down for you and give you some really specific things to try each day And we start with 2 minutes. So this is not a time intensive challenge. This is let's set aside 5 minutes of your morning to try something new. And when we have created this new habit of setting aside that time, you're telling yourself that you're important, you're making yourself a priority, and you're learning how to actually care for yourself. Because here's what it lets you do when you are meditating on a regular basis. You are getting to set your intention for the day. It means you're not just being, all willy-nilly flying by the seat of your pants, being dragged from one thing to another, but you are setting your intention for how you want to be as you move through your day. So you get to practice what it feels like. You get to practice and visualize, how do I want to show up when I am there to pick up my kids from school? It allows you to practice gratitude. We've talked a lot about how gratitude is not how we're wired. And so it gives you an opportunity to set aside that few minutes each morning to practice, how am I grateful for everything, that it shifts your focus. It allows you to shift to positivity. And then meditation, here's a real big one. It also lets you practice forgiveness. So for those high conflict people in our lives, or the challenging relationships that we have, where forgiveness really is a gift to you and not that person, meditation lets you get there. And so setting aside, at this point, I set aside 15 to 20 minutes. So it is not a time intensive endeavor. Now, listen, I have done my share of hour-long meditations and they're glorious, but I'm busy and I don't always have time for that. So setting aside 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes a day is doable. And this meditation challenge will give you the steps to get there. Those are my tips for you, my 2 tips for how to figure out what self-care looks like for you that doesn't break the bank and doesn't take hours and hours a day. So hopefully that was a good little start and jump off to Love Month. I hope that you are ready for some great conversations. You're going to meet some amazing women. And don't forget to check out Jen at Soulway Massage. And again, that meditation challenge is under SimplyShaunna.com and free stuff. Thank you guys for listening today. I'm so excited to be back with you, just kind of sharing my thoughts and knowledge. You're in for a treat this month, and I can't thank you enough for being here. We'll talk soon. Did you like this episode, or did you love it? Inquiring minds want to know. The best way to support this show is to subscribe and leave a review. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.